That's how you win as a small company, is having a clear, confident vision that big companies just can't win on because they've got processes and they've had 30 years. You're going to do this job this way. That's how it's going to get done.
Welcome back, you all. Hey, today on The Necessary Entrepreneur, we're joined by none other than Will Spengler. He's a founder and principal of Frederick Fox. It's a high-growth, equity-driven recruiting firm that's reimagined what a staffing agency can be. From top producer at big staffing houses to building his own firm with partner-level equity, proprietary tech, and a culture built on empowerment. Will's built a business that combines people-first values with ruthless operational executions. If you've ever wondered how to build a service business, especially one built on talent, trust systems, and scale, this episode will get you inside the trenches. Let's get into it.
Man, I like that intro. I appreciate it. Making me sound important.
Well, I mean, hey, you don't get on here these days. I don't know how good the conversation will be, but you don't get on here anymore if you're not important and haven't done things. It's what I've learned in business. Usually I'm not good at anything in the beginning, but I stick with it. I learn a lot of lessons, take a lot of L's, and eventually become really capable. So there were some words in this intro that I'm sure we pulled from LinkedIn and all your websites. But,
yeah, sure.
Right.
Yeah.
I loved where it said operational executions. Oh, man, I love big words like that.
I appreciate the intro. I'm Will. Been staffing for 14 years. I was just dumb enough to start this staffing company about 6 years ago. We do have 56 recruiters. We have 5 people in the back office. The company should do about roughly 10 million in revenue. So a small business. But to your point, there's been a lot of lessons the last 6 years. Operational effectiveness could mean a lot of things. I think what's cool is we do develop in-house technology towards accounting and sales operations. I think that's what some of that's touching on. And I'm, can tell you more about the company if you're interested. So,
yeah, I mean, I think at the end, I think what we're also intrigued by initially when we hear a story, it's no different than you read a biography about somebody, one of the big hitters. It's like, why'd you do it? And so you're sitting here, what's soon to be your late 30s. You're on the back half of your 30s. You're a guy who came up in the Midwest and you've traveled all over, and now you're in Florida. You've done a lot of the right things, but why was starting this business necessary? Why is this the right thing?
Yeah. People talk about Frodo and Sam, and I think some entrepreneurs are Frodo, where they're the visionary and they've got this idea that everybody chases and follows. I always identify more with Sam, in the sense that I was always Sam. I worked for a company called TMA Solutions Group. I really liked what this business was doing. Became a partner in that company before I did this. I believed in their model. They set up a shared service center and treated staffing more like they put a real estate brokerage model on staffing and gave the opportunity for people to be independent, have their own LLC, make 80%, and then they handled the back office accounting and finance, and insurance and all the things that I thought were smoke and mirrors. I later learned were not smoke and mirrors. And I was always, I identified as more like Sam then, where I was like, following this very visionary guy named Brian, who had about $120 million business, give or take. I was a partner in the company, but I didn't have any equity. And the reason I left, I was in a good position, was I believed in the model, but I wanted to, I was just young enough and dumb enough to say, I think this model would be perfect if partners had a better true partnership opportunity. And I tried to bring that to him. He said, no, I don't blame him. And I said, you know what? I'm going to spin something out. You guys are a $120 million business. I think I can be a $20 million business, do a lot of what I like that you're doing here, and start this company. Basically, I hate being called a copycat. I pay kudos to him, But I think what's different about us is the ability to have a real partnership position, be paid for building teams, leading teams. And I tried to make a more fairly economic model for producers in our system.
Mhm.
Um, first 2 years, it was just me. And I was like, oh man, maybe this was a bad idea, you know, but fast forward, we went from 3 to 10 people in the third year, then 10 to 20, 20 to 30. And then recently we went from, in 2025, we went from 40 to 56 recruiters. We'll probably be 60 people recruiters by the end of the year. And it's been a journey.
Yeah, for sure. So you said that you thought back in the day, you thought it was all smoke and mirrors, but now you know it wasn't. What do you do with that? What do you do with that? Because so many people that find themselves being employees that maybe have this sense of being dissatisfied think it's corporate propaganda and it's all smoke and mirrors. And what don't when you were an employee and now the owner of the entrepreneur, what didn't you know as an employee? Why'd you think it was smoke and mirrors? Did you just not see behind the curtain? Did you not have the operational perspective? Why is that?
I was an accountant for only a year after college, but then I was, yeah, as a salesperson the last 14 years, 15 years of my career. So I think as a salesperson, you think that, the business wouldn't run if it weren't for you. And, you do everything when you're a top producing salesperson, and salespeople have egos. I think that's part of what makes them successful. So, in my mind, it's, there's that all revenue cures all ails. I think that's bullshit now. But I think there was a lack of awareness when I was an employee of, yeah, I always tell our business partners, there's a reason accountants have jobs. There's a reason there's HR professionals. There's a reason there's attorneys, right? Like,
Mhm.
I think salespeople often think that they rule the world, and in reality, there's a big reason why these people have jobs and run an operation.
Yeah. So you said there was a misnomer that revenue cures all ills, and you're like, that's a misnomer. Can you go deeper on that? What you've learned around that idea?
Yeah, I mean, you have to be, when you're a company, you have to have an LLC, you have to have insurance. Somebody has to be doing the accounting. You have to understand your cost base, fixed versus variable. So you can throw revenue all day long, but if your variable costs are out of control, you might be you might be more revenue, but losing more money, or you grow too fast, your cash can slip away from you. So revenue cures all ails. I mean, to a certain extent, it depends on the stage of development. Yes, it's not untrue, but once you become a little bit more sophisticated, there's just so much more than just revenue.
Mm, yeah. Cash flow is important though, isn't it? Because what you can do, as long as the cash keeps on flowing, you can overcome a lot of mistakes.
Right. Yeah, I think it's tough because, like, you have to look at your receivable terms, and if you're
Mhm.
growing really fast and your expenses are growing, your expenses hit every single month, but your cash in might not, right?
Mhm.
And if you're growing really fast, you're sucking cash out if you're not collecting on time. Um, I ran into that issue. I ran into issues around insurance. A lot of, like, I realized I had to actually get a lot of attorneys to look at every single contract. You know, um, I steal this from somebody, but it's like on the legal side of things, there's always, I call it "Where's Waldo" with attorneys. They always got something in there. There's a landmine in there somewhere. So
Mhm.
I know that's a whole separate tangent, but you know, you don't really learn how to run a business till you actually run a business. And I think, you get better at it every year, but there's always something that comes up and it's like, all right, I'm fixing this for next year. I'm fixing this for next year. Um, yeah, I think you only learn by falling on your face.
Well, I tell you what, I think we're for some reason in this society, which it's evolving and who knows where it's going to land, we're taught that traditional education teaches us. I don't know what to say. Like, on one hand, I know I'm a constant learner, so the term education is very important to me. But my education is not linear in degrees of semesters. In just you sit down and do this 4-year thing, and when you're done with it, you have all the brilliance and intelligence around it. I was speaking to somebody the other day, and I said they should take most of these 4-year degrees, and it should be shrunk to about 12 months. The actual amount that I learned that I took away that was applicable in life, couldn't have learned it in 12 months or less.
Yeah. I always say I majored in being able to pop a beer can, but joking aside, I went to business school at Ohio State, and they teach you large corporate accounting and finance. You do a 4-year degree, you work your tail off. They teach you how to value $500 million portfolios and these types of ratios and that types of ratio. And then you get out, the real world smacks you in the face, and it's like, yeah, but I know how to compute black skulls. And you get in the real world, and it's like, no one gives a shit, man. Like, none of that knowledge applies here. I'll give you an example. I was a modeler. I was like a financial modeler. I used to love to study how to value companies. I was like competitive about it. And then I got a job in college working for a private equity group. And I get there and I'm like, oh, I can't wait to use all my formulas and all this. And then I got there, and the top guy was multi-millionaire. And I said, okay, I valued this company 5 different ways. I use these formulas. And he's like, he said to me, he's like, just go ahead and throw that all away. He's like, the way I value companies is 1 ratio, price earnings ratio, and then I study their management team, and all I really care about is looking at their management team, and it's an intangible decision. And so I don't want to undervalue school. I think learning the basics of accounting, finance, marketing, business is important, but school doesn't teach you how to file an LLC, do state taxes, stay in compliance. You learn how to stay in compliance when you get something in the mail from California that says you owe 150 grand, and then you figure it out.
Right. Yeah. I find myself as an entrepreneur now so often, people will bring me what they perceive are big problems. And I do the same thing with big problems. I do with small problems. I'm like, what's the problem? All right. How do we solve it? Anything else around the emotions of it or the feelings about it or whatever, it's just irrelevant now. But you have to learn that. And right.
I was talking about this with someone. It's like 411s versus 911s, and what used to be a 911 that you'd be like, oh my God, it's a disaster. After you've been in business for a while, you're like, okay, this is more like a 411. This used to be because you've just run into bigger and bigger problems that what at 911 it comes at you is like, oof, if that's it, like, okay, we're good.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and really 911 is like supposed to be, if we're talking about medical analogies, it's like, this is life or death. I mean, a lot of people use it in this world that probably shouldn't and don't need to. But if I look back and think about all my businesses, even if it's life and death in the business, emotions and feelings shouldn't be elevated. You should elevate just the severity of the decision or the problem, but you should take the same balanced, controlled approach to the thing.
Yeah. I'm sure you got better at it over time. That's
100%.
something that I'm working on, still somewhere I'm trying to develop, in my later 30s, but, step away from it for a day if I have to. But if I feel that emotional buildup, I know that I need to not respond for a second and kind of cool down,
That's it. Yeah. I think I've probably I'm in this good segment probably just in the last 2 or 3 years. And it's not just about being 46 in age. It's about just massive experience and dealing with massive problems. And I think you reflect and you're like, all right, we worked everything out. Like there's still nothing that hasn't been figure outable. Nothing. And taking that approach, because whatever the outcome is going to be, it's going to be the outcome. Right?
Yeah.
Get to work, do our best. So, what have you starting your firm in 2019, recruiting? I've never used a recruiting firm to recruit employee, but I do know we're a different type of business. Not to say that C-suite and all that, but I've developed these people internally. This can be a good conversation. But I do know that the strength of my company is the bench strength of my employees. And
Yeah.
it's all about people, right? If I have the skills to translate in a simple way what our goals are and what the vision is, and we go out and execute on it, we should accomplish what the business plan says we should. And if you get really good quality people to buy in to the idea and the vision that we're trying to execute with good attitudes, that have some resilience, have some grit, not all the way, don't have to be the entrepreneur, we're going to have a good outcome. But it seems like this is a massive struggle now, is for companies to develop internal talent, and therefore is your business, which is huge. Your industry is enormous.
Yeah, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. I always say people are your number one asset, and I think you nailed it. It sounds like you're a natural at crafting a vision and being confident, and you probably have a good roadmap. Sounds like you're probably pretty good at dealing with people and keeping a pipeline of people, so you've never had to use a recruiting firm.
Well,
Um,
I think there's been times when we have had a lack of depth, and I've thought about it. But I think we can help a lot of entrepreneurs that are going from this small to mid size. If they look around and they don't have someone that has the current ability or the current talents, the current mindset or experience, this is a good conversation. There's a lot of people that aren't exposed to your world.
yeah, look, I think a small company, if you're under 15 million in revenue, people try to avoid paying a recruiting fee like the plague, and I don't blame them. But I think that once a company's 20 million to let's say 500 million, that's probably our sweet spot to find customers. We call that retail business, where there's actually budget towards staffing and outside agencies. And then, of course, anything over a billion is typically enterprise. That's usually baked in for that. They use a lot of external recruiting agencies like ours. The difficulty with that is all the red tape and working up the supplier list. But I think there are a real opportunity for us is, we're like attorneys. Nobody wants to pay us, and I don't blame them. But like, let's say you're a $50 million company and your controller walks out. Um, you have a situation where you have a speed to hire and a quality to hire need, and maybe you don't have somebody immediately available. And I get it. You don't want to pay a recruiting fee. But you look at that and you're like, look, I've got to make AP. I've got to make AR. I've got to get payroll out. Like, I need to fill this job and I need to fill it with a quality person yesterday. And I think that's what creates the market for our services. And, you know, that's where we try to be the best at. We typically do accounting and finance, and sales roles is our number two vertical. Our third is technology, like software development, data. Um, and yeah, that's us. So
How do you bridge this divide between talent and culture fix? Or culture fit. It's almost like when somebody's developing a product, what's the product market fit? Or to make sure the product that the marketplace wants the product. How do you merge these two? Culture in this term has become so relevant in the conversation over the past decade. What do you do with those? Because I'm assuming it's pretty easy to solve for the talent piece. You know that, right? You look at a resume, what's their experience, you do what you can vet that easy. How do you vet the environment, the culture piece?
great question. And you're correct. I think a lot of times, like if it's Cincinnati, and I don't know your exact industry that your business does, but all recruiters are doing are figuring out who all your competitors are or relevant industries at the similar stage of development to you guys to get somebody from there that comes from a similar complexity within the Christmas list you give us. Like, you might want them to be an MBA, CPA, 7+ years of experience. We sort of do research, and then we try to attract them to your company. But I think it starts with, if you and I were going to do a call, it would be understanding, why is the position open? What the person in the role last time around, what was it about this individual that didn't fit into your culture? How would you describe your culture? What are you looking for, ideally, culture fit wise, out of the next person? And then we try to gauge interview questions towards that when we go to market. So we hit all the, similar complexity, similar industry. We can do all that. To your point, that's not the hard part. For some people, that's hard because of the lack of business understanding. But that is attainable. The culture fit, I hate to say that we do our best to guide the questions towards the intake with the customer. It's a sort of an intuitive feel at times. So maybe AI won't replace us too quickly. But I think oftentimes we rely on the customer to help us with it's ultimately the customer that's making the decision, and they're interviewing 6 or 7 people through us. And so we do lean on the client to help us with the culture at the end of the day.
Mm. Yeah. This is kind of like anti helping you, but this might help. So let's say we're going to talk to people under 20 million and they might just not be there yet or don't think they have the revenue line to do it. So if someone's a small business owner, could be your future customer. I don't know how you develop and foment relationships, but if someone's a small business owner struggling to build a great team,
Yeah.
what's some tactical moves that they should make like tomorrow that you've learned? Like if they're having a tough time attracting good talent, because you talk to the talent piece too, because you're not just recruiting them. They're probably they have a lot, like who's the business you're recruiting for, right? They want to know all sorts of these things. So what are something these small businesses could do like tomorrow to start attracting great talent?
This might sound a little wooey, but I'll just say it, is that I think as a business owner, you need to spend some time or kind of milk in who you are, what makes you different, and crafting your vision. And I think sometimes people have imposter syndrome when it comes to hiring, or maybe they have perfectionism. No one can do it as good as me. It's easier if I just do everything, and I can't delegate. It depends on the person why they're not hiring. But I think if you spend time in getting to your clear vision and roadmap of where you're going to be in 5 years, I think it really comes down to getting that clear vision and being able to express that clearly to people interested in your company and confidently. And I think when it comes to A players, you've got to be confident about your vision. Here's where I'm at. Here's me. Here's where I'm at. Here's where I'm going. Here's what I can offer. Here's some upside for joining my smaller company. This is what I'm trying to do, and here's why. Here's the mission. And it's on them to join. Don't, just because 10 people don't like your Kool-Aid, don't, keep taking it to market, because there's going to be someone that sees the value eventually. So I think sometimes people shy away from hiring, or they feel insecure about where they are as a company. I'd say just own it and own where you're going and take it to market.
You said own it. That sounds like accountability.
Yeah.
What do we do with that word in going into 2026? Because I believe that accountability will unlock everything you want if people truly have it.
Yeah. It's one of our core values, and you hit on solutions orientation is one of ours too. There's always a problem. There's always a reason our company sucks. And I always say there's no point in complaining about it. Let's figure out how to solve it, and let's solve the things in priority. Being complaining is counterproductive. Accountability, I don't know why people don't have that anymore. I don't get it. I don't know if it's Midwest values, but I was always raised to, when it's work, it's work. And I don't understand people without a work ethic, but that's probably why I own a company.
Yep. But Will, you don't have any empathy for how I feel.
I think I'm a pretty empathetic person and understanding, but I think, you ever have the employee that there's always a problem in their personal life. First it's their dog, then it's their granddaughter, then it's their cat.
When I see those, I run. Because what I have learned is, I don't know if it's this definitive, but it's been said many times before, for the most part, the way somebody does one thing is the way they do everything.
Yeah.
And if their personal life is a disaster, their work life, for the most part, is going to be a disaster. Because
and their health, their spiritual life, it's probably all in the same place, right?
It is. Yeah, because I haven't really seen a human. We can compartmentalize to an extent when we're having bad days. But whatever somebody's operating system is, they don't all of a sudden flip on the brand new OS that was just updated to work at work and then flip on like a Windows 8 from 15 years ago when they go home. Doesn't work that way. They're using the
Yeah.
same they're processing problems and what their response is and their emotional levels. They're utilizing that all the time. And so, yeah, I think
Yeah.
more and more I'm helping people change their life, but I know they're the one, it's on them. They're responsible.
I think the way I can catch those people is I call it the victim versus the victor mindset. That I always say the victim is controlled by their environment, whereas the victor impacts their environment. So like you start hearing people saying, it was because my boss, it was because our product was not the right fit, or two or three stories of previous things, and it's always everybody but them was the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Um, versus you interview someone and you say, you know what, I failed. I like people that admit that they failed. Like here's, because they're at least taking accountability for it, right? And
100%.
that's and you can move forward on that. Like I'd
Yeah.
almost rather have somebody that's failed.
I know if we learn most through failure, if we've adopted that, then why are we not placing value on recruiting those folks? Right?
Yeah.
That at least they failed there. How can we grow from it? Yeah. So often what I'm doing now with people, when they're blaming a situation or an environment or another person, I'm listening and I'm saying, okay, maybe. Yeah. I'm not going to argue. Maybe.
Yeah.
Now what? Now what?
Yeah.
Right. We gonna live in it? Is that gonna be your outcome? Or are we gonna take a response to some things, or we take accountability, we take responsibility to control what we can control? I mean, this has been written before me and you were even humans.
Yeah. I think this is on this vein, but do you know a lot of people that it's like they want to start a business, but then they're like, hey, I don't have any money, or there's 5 different reasons why you wouldn't do it, right?
Yeah.
Or I have to have benefits, right? I have to have benefits, otherwise I'd start a business. Um, I like to stay in the mindset of, okay, what would need to be true in order to be there? Yeah, I like to like if okay, we want to be a $30 million business, we're a $10 million business. Instead of saying that's impossible, I like to say what would need to be true and what would need to be in place to get there. Let's start knocking one thing out at a time.
All right.
I'm not saying I'm the world's best entrepreneur. I'm new to it. I'm 6 years in, but that's the mindset I try to stay in. Continuous improvement,
Yep.
building technology. What if we were 30 million? We had this amount of transactions. We had this many. What would I need to have? What would the back office need to look like? Um, and just start knocking it out one at a time. To stay on a North Star vision and path.
So when you left your high society job, your gig, you were a successful recruiter, and you said, I think I can leave this $120 million business and start one and turn it into 20 million. So you're at 10
Yeah.
million right now. What would need to be true for your business to be 20 million sooner rather than
Yeah.
later?
I think I underestimated accounting. I underestimated learning and development. I really underestimated my people leadership skills. Um, so I'm constantly trying to become a better people leader. Um, I didn't, so I think what we need to be true is we need we need to operate better as a team, work together as better as a team. We need true leaders to rise. We will have to try to grow more revenue. We need more repeat customers. And then we're going to need more headcount to get there as well. But there's an opportunity for more revenue within our headcount by operating better. Um, a lot of different answers to your question, but I think the two things I drastically underestimated was leadership, was learning and development, training, and leadership.
How did you go down this path of you being self-aware that you needed it? How'd you come to this?
I don't know. I think I've always been self-aware, just and being analytical by nature. So I'm willing to look in the mirror all the time, probably overly look in the mirror, probably overly tough on myself. I just have that personality. But what you were talking about earlier is like those emotional responses, those kill you as a leader. And, I don't have the perfect track record. So like, you study people that are running 100, 150 million dollar companies, they're pretty smooth, calm, and collected. They're able to hide their egos pretty well. So I finally was like, you know what? I need to level up. Not saying that I have yet, but I'm working on it.
Yeah. When I hear folks talk like that, employees at companies, entrepreneurs, it's like the first step. When we usually have people around us that had some sort of an addiction problem. And one of the biggest things that you hear is, what do they first need to say? They need to acknowledge that they have the addiction. Right. And so I think it's the same thing with all the shortcomings that when we were employees and now we're entrepreneurs. The only way you can solve the thing is if you truly own, like, this is a problem and I need to be able to fix this. What would need to be true? Right. That leads back to your question.
Yeah, I mean, the buck stops with you, right?
Yeah.
So if you're sitting there blaming all your employees, you know, well, you're at the table, you're the head of the table. It's on you. You're the one that brought those employees in. You're the one that's leading the company. So instead of blaming other people, you're equally to blame. It's your fault.
Right on. Yeah. So you're out here working with, I'm sure, some private equity level mid-market companies. I think you guys do.
Several.
What are some unique demands and patterns you're seeing in hiring now? Is it the same as 2019? Is it the same when you were in the business a decade ago? What are some of these patterns? What's going on now?
Oh, jeez. It's a broad question. I think with private equity in particular, there is a lot of desire to get a really good CFO and financial planner into these 20, 30, 40, $50 million businesses. I think that's their main pain point, is getting a really good CFO and controller. And then they'll put the spend towards sales and marketing and expanding into markets. But there's a big trend in private equity I see to get really solid backbone accounting and finance, understanding your cash flow position, then they'll hyper grow. Um, how is private equity different from 10 years ago? I think 10 years ago it was all about tech and product businesses. And I think now private equity is, from what I've seen, been going more into heavy assets or commercial real estate. We're, of course, they're still going into SaaS. I don't want to say they're not, but I think that there's a trend now to get into more tangible physical assets or energy or oil or renewables. I think people are not chasing the intangible future value as much as before.
Hmm. And the bigger these firms get, the bigger hits they need to have too. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, they need a larger cap thing to invest in, because that's going to be the opportunity cost of their money and their time.
Yeah, I know they're looking into AI. I saw something, I wasn't in business in the .com, but I thought this was funny, was I had the quote go that the like AI is a lot like when the internet first came out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's essentially the same thing, but the investors haven't gotten any smarter from it. It's like everybody's chasing this huge future of AI, and a lot of that's kind of, and I hate to be anti-AI, but I think it's a bubble.
Yeah. 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 I've never seen a place, as humans, our human nature is, we just have FOMO about everything.
Right.
We just do. Like, all of us, I think by default, we do. And you have to fight that to really take a step back and say, wait a minute, does this align with what I've learned? Does this align with the linear focus I need to have for my business? We get distracted and get the wool pulled over real easy, and it's our fault.
Yeah.
Looking for some big multiple instead of just going in on your business and operating and running a better business.
Yeah. Exactly. I think they're getting smarter now. Like, they want to see that a company's actually producing real margin and net income, and that's actually growing, and that the customers are actually growing. I think, back in 2018, 2019, 2020, it's certainly during COVID, it was like they're just tossing money at these SaaS businesses. And I think it was late 2022 when Silicon Valley Bank went down, where there's like this huge correction of, okay, we've got to be responsible with the money that we're raising. We got to go after things that we know are actually producing value.
What's when you started your firm, as we do some digging and find out about all these people that we're going to talk to, it's like this Will guy, let's dig in. He shows up
Yeah,
with an
go ahead.
Ohio State pullover, but
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, no, I think thinking about, you buy into this work hard, play hard. I think that's important to you.
How do you know about the play hard?
Just have a
You
feel.
just got a you got a vibe. You got a
It's
vibe.
our job. It's
All
our
right.
job. What's that mean in the recruiting environment in your world? What does work hard, play hard mean?
I don't know how hard I play anymore because I have an 8, 6, and a 2-year-old. But yes, you are picking up correct. I used to play very hard. Work in my 20s. I was making a lot of money as a salesperson. I worked for a company. I used to live and die by work hard, play hard. Now it's just work hard and work harder when I get home. But it depends. Recruiting is any sales job can impact your personal life massively. You have customers call on at 7, 8 o'clock at night. It's hard as a recruiter. Maybe it's at all sales to even really take a vacation as a salesperson. So a lot of recruiters are working 60, 70, 80 hours a week, chasing $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 livings. So I don't personally play hard anymore. Now that I'm responsible for a company. And I got 911s coming at me Friday night at 9 p.m. If I didn't, I'd probably play a little harder.
What would that mean to you? You just got your eyes just awoke. They awoke. I'm like, oh, there he is.
Come on, man. This is going to be published on my LinkedIn. I can't,
But I think people, here's why I asked that too. And you can soften it up if you want, but I'm not saying all the craziness, but people say today that they want authentic people.
Yeah.
They want authentic, and I don't know if they really want it. I don't know if society really wants authenticity. Because that's what you're saying, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm married now, right? But I mean, yeah, I went to Ohio State as a #1 party school. I'd like to go out with my friends. I got out of there with a degree. I'm happy about that. But
among all the keg stands, Will's a keg stand guy.
One or two. I've done that. Yeah, I was more of an ice luge guy. I like the ice.
Oh
luge.
Yeah. So just you said I like having a little banter on podcasts, but you said it's the #1 party school. We have an Ohio Bobcat sitting over to my right.
Oh, do we?
And they claim that in Athens, Ohio, that's the top party school. Do we need to have a debate around this?
I heard about it. Yeah, people would be like, "Oh man, there's a big party at Ohio University every year." They have like some massive annual thing there, and everyone from Ohio State. I never actually went, but I don't know. I would say go down any street on Ohio State campus on a Tuesday, and it sounds like every house it's ridiculous. I don't know how people learn anything there.
Yeah. Well, you found a way. You walked away with a piece of paper that said you learned something. What, your business, what's this idea behind? Because when anybody starts a business, a lot of people are mission driven. Some are just financially driven, which that's fine. Go do something different and earn the revenue. But some are mission driven. I was trying to figure out when we talked to Will today and Frederick Fox in this company, and you have your community, partnership, and equity driven. And this isn't a got you question, but it's pushing the button a little bit. Like a lot of businesses make big statements like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What's that mean? And is it really backed up inside your company and business?
Yes, it definitely is. That's why I started the business. So, we pay our recruiters 80% commissions on their sales. Most of the industry pays 40 to 50% at the end of the day. Our partners earn 100%. I'm a firm believer that you should never profit off a partner. So we don't make any money off of a partner. Now we do share, we give each partner a P&L of their teams, and we have a 50% ownership of their teams, and they have a 50% ownership. So I don't know of another staffing company that even has 100% offer. I don't know of another staffing company that even gives partners real partnership stake, protects them in the event of a sale, gives them tag along, drag along rights. there's so many of these agencies out there that are calling people partners, and they're basically, division leads with a 10% profit sharing bonus. Um, we we're probably the closest thing you could be to a nonprofit. So like, it's a very thin margin business, but we're cash flow positive. I don't think anyone could disrupt us on how much we pay out. I think they would go broke if they tried. And I've almost gone broke. I was broke the first 4 years doing it, but we're now positive. And um, so I don't know. I don't know anybody out there that's paying more than we do and tries to be more fair. We are a for-profit business. So I don't know anybody doing what we're doing. I'll tell you that.
Why has it been right for you to do it then?
Because it was what I always wanted, working for somebody else.
Now it seems like, are you going to use your skills and now it's time to scale the business by bringing other recruiters on? Because you fomented your ability and created relationships. You know what your skills are. So now to scale the business, you need to bring other recruiters on, teach them, develop them, learn them. Right? That's the focus of the business is what I'm feeling here.
Yeah, I'm growing some muscles there, right? Like, I know I can sell. I know I can sell with the best of them. I think where I've been growing muscles is training and development and, people leadership, and then, hiring accounting and getting better at automating accounting and getting better at financial planning and forecasting. I think pretty good there. But I think where I'm trying to get better is developing people, um, creating better training and like passing skills and knowledge transfer on. That ended up being much bigger thing than I realized.
Charlie Munger, I'm sure, I don't know if you have some appreciation for him, but he's an attorney, came from an accounting background, how he evaluated companies. I'm assuming a guy like you looked up to and respected a guy like that. I bet. Am I right or wrong?
I don't know him personally, so it's probably bad I don't.
So it's Warren Buffett's right-hand man that just passed away at Berkshire Hathaway. He helped him evaluate the businesses. But here's what he said. He said one of the things, he was worth 2 or 3 billion, and Warren was worth 100. But he said, show me the incentive, I'll show you the performance and the outcome.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think that's what our business model is built on is I think we have the ultimate carrot. And so, we don't always have the best, like, a lot of companies will give you more of a base salary, low incentive, and they'll cap. We're like the opposite. We have the best carrot in town. You can't pay someone more than 100%. We give them a path. It's all merit based. So like, we have the incentive die turned all the way up. Like, I'm a firm believer. If like you help us get there, we're going to pay you more because you helped us get there,
Mm-hmm. So where's this mission driven mindset come from?
I think I just had a chip on my shoulder working for other people. Not that I did it that long. I was in corporate for 8 years. And I think, I spent 2 years by myself before I scaled up. And I just kept on thinking, okay, am I going to build a company just like everybody else? I know it'll work. But how do I build a company how do I create an offer that I would accept? And that was a real question for me. And so I just reverse engineered it from what I would want in an offer and worked my way down.
That's something else old Charlie Munger talks about. He said, when you have a problem, invert everything. It's reverse engineer. He said, invert it and you'll figure it out.
Yep.
He was a brilliant guy. I can see you've got this finance operations mind. I can tell, right? That's your approach to everything. It's very analytical. And I appreciate that if you say, hey, I needed to be a better people leader. There's not a lot of people who say, here's my strength. But for me to be the entrepreneur, the leader that I need to be, I've got to go over here and look at this weakness and work on it hard. That's hard, isn't it? I mean, it's really hard to work on what we would perceive as our shortcomings or our weaknesses. It's hard.
I've been wrestling in this because some people say, hey, just stick to your strengths and hire around your weaknesses. But then you hear Kobe Bryant, he has all these videos about how he'd go into the gym and work on his left-hand shot for hours and hours because he knew it was his weakness. And that's why he was so great. He was constantly going after his weaknesses. So I'm torn on the topic, to be honest. But yeah, I think yes, I am a very analytical person. I like numbers. I was in space mathematics before I got into finance. So I like to create scenarios. I like to think 3, 4, 5 years ahead. And I like to think, run numbers and scenario analysis. I don't know many, I don't know. That makes me, I think a lot of CEOs or founders are really like visionary and sales
Mm-hmm.
focused.
Yeah.
I think I'm a little more tactical. I'm a little bit more operational minded. Yeah, that's just how I am.
Do you think without trying to, it's always risky to make an analogy for an insult, but is it a little bit more a Steve Wozniak to a Steve Jobs?
Yeah, I would be more like Wozniak.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like vision for vision's sake personally. I can do it. I can do the exercise. Some people in the company say, "Oh, this thing's going to be huge. It's going to be $100 million company." I'm more concerned about what do we got to do to get to 20 million. I can do that mental exercise all day long. Um, I know Elon Musk is a guy that says he creates this big audacious goal, and then everybody has to reverse engineer it.
Mm-hmm.
I do create a audacious goal, but I don't. I don't know. I'm more of a solver. Take the steps. I like to focus there. Yeah, I'll get to my North Star, but I keep my North Star reachable. So like right now, my North Star is 20 million, 10 million. I'll figure out my next North Star once I'm there.
Yeah. Do you think the struggle is because, like, I bet I've never even taken an IQ test. When people talk about their IQ, I just look at IQ as problem solving. Like, how quick can you problem solve something? Take any problem. That's the IQ that I'm looking for somebody. But I can tell that you're really intellectual and really smart. Like, if you were next to me, I'm like, let him go and crush this thing and design it and build it. Take the algorithm. But here is the challenge, which I know for so many people is they need to be sold a vision.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that's what's tough. You're like, guys, it should be unnecessary. We don't need to do this. Let's just execute these things that I've figured out. Come on, you're motivated enough. You don't need me to rah-rah. There's a big part of the segment of the population that doesn't have what you have. I mean, a big part. And so they do need this other piece.
So I do have a vision for the company. Even when I was 400,000 in revenue, I had a 5-year plan that had year 1 through 5. And I said, we'll be 1 million, then we'll be 2 million, then we'll be 4 million, 8, 15, 20, right? And I said, this is what we're going to do. And we've been hitting it every year, right? So I do have a vision and I already mapped out how it would be true. And we just stick to it. I don't want to say I don't have a vision.
I think you do. You don't have this thing of thinking you need to sell the vision to anybody.
Well, I do sell the vision. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's how I think because as a small company, you can't really, you have to be a storyteller and a vision and why somebody would work for you versus a large company that might give you more. So like that's how you win as a small company, is having a clear, confident vision. That big companies just can't win on because they've got processes and they've had 30 years. You're going to do this job this way. That's how it's going to get done. I think with a small company, that's the biggest reason why people work for you, is they get to be creative. They know your vision. So I allow people to be creative towards it, but the vision doesn't change. It's been the same for 5 years. We're going to get to 20 million. And we're going to figure it out from there.
There you go. All right. So to wrap this up, I could sit and talk to smart people all day long, and you're one of those.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Man. Yeah.
Even though I did kickstands and ice luges.
Well, what I want everybody to know is all the stupid things we did back in we benefited from social media not tracking everything we did.
Well, you did, but was
it everything? You weren't. Not everything was being documented yet, was it? When you were coming up,
a little bit, yeah. I mean, MySpace was coming up, and so
but not like
you might have slipped it, yeah, but not like now. No,
it's everything. Yeah. No, I think I did when I talk to people. This is off, it's off topic here, but I had the perfect timing in history to grow up. It was perfect for so many reasons we could dig into. And yet, as I was getting out of high school, the internet was showing up. So
Mhm.
I imagine going through the educational journey and not having any of that, getting into my work life and then having to learn it, that would have been a little more tough. But we're sitting at high school and we're playing Oregon Trail and we're connecting to AOL and so
Yeah, yeah.
we were there. But we had the spectrum of all of it. So yeah, I can't imagine honestly what it is to be a 14 or a 16 or an 18-year-old human today. It has to be really difficult.
I bet. Yeah, I'm old enough to the click into AOL and then AIM girls back in the day. It's
Mhm.
that was me too. You know, but yeah, and I mean these kids everything's being video spread. There's all this fake AI news,
Yep,
and it's just you can't even trust anything anymore. It's
I
ridiculous.
agree. All right, so you really pronounce your business as a people-based business. As we
Well, it's
wrap
just
up here, and you tie it up to your brand and Frederick Fox, and them coming out and find you on LinkedIn. I'm sure that's where you do a lot of your business and social for the business on LinkedIn.
yeah, it's a professional services business run by people.
Yep.
So I don't know our product. I don't even know if it's a product or a service. It's mainly a service, but our product, if there was one, is people. So it is a people service business. But yeah, we're on www.frederickfox.com. You can always reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'll check it at 11 o'clock at night. My wife will be upset, but I will respond.
And they can find out about your new product, even though we talked about AI and whether it's relevant. You guys have a proprietary product that's Ruby AI. You're doing some stuff for recruiting on that front too. So,
Yep, we're trying to automate a lot of timesheets, onboarding, payroll. We're also trying to automate accounting and dashboard analytics into one tool. And then we're also automating within the same tool sales leads via, I don't know if you know Clay. We're doing a lot with Clay tables and then displaying it in our software. So we're trying to empower our salespeople with real time leads. So it's an AI. The interface, it has a lot more on the back end that's feeding it to empower our people to sell more and for our accountants to process faster.
all right, you got a bright future ahead, man. You're 37.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, man. I think over the next 9 years, I'm like, man, you were at 37. You're talking in a way that I wasn't talking, understanding things. So I'm sure there's great things ahead down in Delray Beach, Florida.
Thanks, Mark.